have to say that you don't have a pricing problem. You actually have a receiving problem. I don't see people undercharging because they're confused. I'm seeing it come from hesitation or overgiving or just not feeling fully safe to be seen and therefore to receive. So, earlier in our conversation around this in the Facebook group, we asked where you feel that in your body. So, what's interesting is we're not usually answering with excitement, we're usually answering with tightness or hesitation or just like I don't know. I don't really know. So that's not a pricing issue. That's going to be a receiving issue. And what's fun is that we can dive into your chart and see how and where and why that's happening. So this conversation is really deep and really fun for me, but I get into it in the private podcast too. It's touchy. It's touchy. But I think that it's exactly what our business is medicine actually means. And I say that a lot. Like, um, the thing that's like, why is it so touchy? Why does it feel like that? That's our opportunity to basically look over at it and be like, hi, I'm Katie D. Nice to meet you. What is it that you need from me? What is it that you feel like you didn't receive yet? So, added on to this, and I'm absolutely talking about this from experience, and I have to say that right now because I think it could be taken or assumed a certain way that, like, oh, she's never lived that, or, if you see me in the group and I seem confident, it could seem like you didn't see the work that came into that, and so it could seem like I just showed up that way. But for me, the issue was always overgiving, which is actually not generosity. And that can be painful in and of itself. Like, what do you mean that's not generosity? It feels like it is. And I get that. But let's dive deeper into it. We could hang out here all day in that surface level place that we feel so cozy and comfortable. Or we can really get and dive down into this. And as healers, it's like, seems obvious to me. Um, so the overgiving can actually be a sense of protection. And I know that because I did it myself. And the place it was coming from for me in my chart was my ego center, which is defined. I place a ton of pressure on my shoulders to overgive, to show my value when I have that value inherently. So, what we want to unpack are these feelings of like if I give more, I don't have to fully receive. Or if I over deliver, I don't have to raise my prices. Or if I make it free, I don't have to risk being rejected. And that's the fear right there. But what's so important and what I love so much about this work is finding your fear, like sniffing it out. But we get to do that with curiosity and kindness with ourselves. We're mothering ourselves or being our own parent here. And just seeing what is there and what's to be uncovered. And whenever it's fear, we understand that that fear is there and that we can sit with it. We can sit right alongside it. It's not something that we have to overcompensate, over deliver, give more to try and run from. And a lot of times, what I see is always thread throughout this is like that sense of control is trying to bring us a sense of safety, which is trying to let us avoid this fear, when in actuality, we can just sit with it. What's the fear? Oh, probably like we said, like actually being seen or oftentimes, and I worked with this myself, like that fear of success, like, oh my gosh, well, if I get too many clients, then, I'm going to be only doing my business and I'm not going to have time for the fun stuff that I like to do. And it's all going to be like a waste of time because it's not even bringing me the life that, our brains are like, and not to mention our subconscious is like operating in these other games and these other levels that we just need to understand and then have compassion for. Um, I do believe that we truly do want to help. Again, I've worked through this myself. I'm still in it. It's just different layers of it. It never really goes away. It's just like reminding yourself and coming back to your tools and just kind of saying like I'm going to do it anyways because the dream is bigger than the fear. But I do believe that we do want to help people, but without our structure, it that will keep us absolutely stuck. Because our transformations for ourselves and for our clients, they're not going to come in with this like half in and half out energy. We need to be the leaders in these situations. We want to be the leaders in our business and with our clients, and especially as, showing the transformation that can take place. So there's absolutely a level of presence that comes in your business whenever you've had that, like, I'm in this, I'm actually in this, I'm in my wounds, I'm being seen, I'm showing vulnerability, but I'm also showing strength, and I'm showing that like I am actively healing through what wants to hold me back. So then when it's time to receive, it's always just interesting to just notice and see what happens next. Our voice softens. We might add disclaimers. Over explain is a big one for me, or even just pull back. So that's our nervous system saying, like, this doesn't feel safe yet. And it can be interesting when you jump into coaching to have people kind of tell you to just, blow past that. But the work that I get to do with my clients is it's a dance between understanding what it is and understanding why it is and understanding where it is and then finding our path forward from there. And feeling like, what we point to as the surface level issue is really never what it is. So let's let it be fun and interesting with our little sense of curiosity to dive down deeper into it and see what can we actually find there. So I feel like especially the overgiving and like the blurring of the edges, it also never creates more impact with your business. It just creates more exhaustion and more shoulds and more, like, especially I'm a generator, like I'm just gonna feel super spread thin whenever I do that. And I'm not going to be magnetic, which means I'm not going to pull in the people that actually need my work. So really, and I said this before, like we get this manual that's like, here's how you do business. Here's the book for you, the PDF. And it's like talking about charging and talking about prices. And I'd love to have this conversation more under this video or in some of the posts coming up this week. But instead of like, what should I charge? I just want you to think about asking, can I actually hold that amount that I'm asking for? And so for me, I had this certain amount in my head of like, this is what it is. And it wasn't even that much, honestly, but I just noticed that I actually never got there. And so I ended up taking that price down because it had to be a point that my nervous system was like, oh, yes, this is actually doable. This is acceptable. And so then it ended up being a price point that didn't make my voice shake or my nerves jitter. Um, and it actually lands. But on top of that is being super clear about what's underneath that and really diving down into it in a way that is healthy and fun and not, getting down on ourselves or letting ourselves just stay in these patterns and feeling stuck. So, I do talk about this in the private podcast, and it's funny because I kind of say the same thing there, where I'm like, this is a topic that people just don't love sometimes. It just kind of hits you, right? Um, but we get into it just a little bit more there. And if it's basically like, it's just like I said, it's what's happening underneath and getting the tools, and honestly, even just like the paradigm shift where we can get ourselves scooted over to this place where we actually can find what it is. Like I said, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt. So if you are kind of getting your interest piqued a little bit, go ahead and DM me podcast and I'll send you the private podcast. And like I said, we just get into it and frame it a little bit more for you. But this is what we're getting into this week. I love it and I can't get enough of this conversation. And what's funny is I talk about gene keys in the group, and my gene keys pointed to in the prosperity sequence, it's your pearl sequence. And basically, what you're looking at is a few different spheres inside your human design chart. And so mine actually pointed to dishonor as that gene key. And so for me, that's part of this money wound, is like that feeling of, if I ask for money, then it feels like dishonor instead of this like giving everything for free and you know let me just give you everything that I have. That's a huge trait in my family, is to, like, in a deal, basically take the portion that's the smallest and the meekest and takes up the least amount of space. And so that's what's really cool too with this work, is we always end up actively, healing those bloodlines, healing that DNA, and moving ourselves into this space of becoming who it is that we need to be for this business to work. And I'm talking about that a lot this week, and I talk about that a lot in the private podcast too. So, more to come. And honestly, um, this work is just really fun for me, and it's all the stuff that I've done myself. So I'm really happy to have these conversations, and it feeds straight into my human design and my gene keys and what I'm here to do. So you can tell whenever you get in alignment, you just kind of broadcast it, because you just kind of can't help but be so excited about how it feels and what the ideas are. And let's just remind ourselves that overgiving, and I was guilty of this too, it feels generous, but most of the time it's our fear dressed up in something more acceptable. Okay, if anyone here has joined me, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.